Blow, blow, blow till I hear the breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Hello and welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. Our guest today is Terence Price, who is an agricultural professor and he's a Catholic layperson. He's retired now, but he's not retired from being a Catholic layperson. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Mirella.
Terry, you came last week.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back again. Thank you so much.
It's lovely to have you. And we'll be discussing, obviously, Our Lady Queen of Peace's messages in Medjugorje, where she's been appearing to the visionaries since June the 24th, 1981 in Medjugorje, a little village in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and still is today.
That's right.
It's wonderful news, isn't it?
Yes.
And you've been there yourself, haven't you?
I've been there 3 times.
Yeah.
And my wife has been there 4 times.
Wow.
And the last visit was in 2006.
Right. I'll say with mine.
So we'll have to wait and see if Our Lady calls us again.
That's right.
Because she always calls.
I know, that's what I was told. I even went during the war, or just before the war started and after the war finished. And everyone said to me, you'll be safe, because Our Lady calls you. If you're going, Our Lady's called you there.
Well, that's right.
Right. So we'll read the message that she gave on the 25th of February 2015, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay.
Our Lady Queen of Peace said, "Dear children, in this time of grace, I call all of you, pray more and speak less. In prayer, seek the will of God and live it according to the commandments to which God calls you. I am with you and am praying with you. Thank you for having responded to my call." Well, I'll start with the first sentence. Our Lady says, "Dear children, in this time of grace, I call all of you, pray more and speak less." What would you like to say about that?
Well, I think she's always saying pray, pray, pray. But now she's saying pray more, which is the same thing, but speak less. And I think the message is for us because I'm a scientist, I'm an academic, and sometimes we're always talking, and we're not listening. And what she's saying now, speak less so that you become silent, and it's into the silence of your heart that you can hear the Lord, what He's saying to you.
That's right.
And I think I can certainly say I'm guilty of speaking too much and not listening enough or being silent enough.
Yeah.
And I think we have to learn from the monastic orders,
Yeah.
because that's what they do. They pray and they have that silent time,
That's right.
And if you ever have been to a monastery and see their daily life, and it's quite revealing, and it's beautiful.
That's right. It's like sometimes you think, even in my own life, I think, if I say this, it'll help that person. So once this person was ringing me constantly for years, over years, and I would always be repeating the same things over again. Maybe if you do this or you do, and I'd be saying it with love each time. Maybe if you do this, maybe if you do. And then I realised these conversations are going for years. And then I thought maybe if I speak less, as this message says, and pray more, that will have more effect. And Mary has said in another message as well, prayer works miracles.
That's right.
So, it's so powerful. I don't know if we give it enough credit to really the absolute power a prayer has.
And sometimes you can pray by being silent as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to pray with words, As St. Paul says, let the Spirit lead you the way He wants to.
Yeah.
Right? I do not know what the Spirit is saying, but it's still a prayer.
Yeah.
So long as prayer is really putting our minds and hearts in tune with God.
Exactly.
Right? It's a conversation. It's a conversation with God. And a conversation should not be a monologue, it should be a dialogue.
Yes, yes.
Like I'm talking to you right now,
Yes.
and you're listening to me.
Yes.
So that's a dialogue.
That's right.
So if I'm just talking, and I don't know what God is saying to me, I have to shut up and be silent.
And listen, that's it, listen in
That's
our
right.
hearts. I spoke to one of the visionaries once in Medjugorje and I said to him, how do you know what God's will is? And he said to me, He speaks to you in your heart. You hear Him in your heart. And I just thought, I know I've heard that from people over the years, but when he said it, it seemed to have so much more power. I thought, it's true. You hear Him in your heart, which goes on to the next part of the message. Our Lady says, In prayer, seek the will of God and live it according to the commandments to which God calls you.
Yeah, well, when she says, seek the will of God, and I was born in Kenya, East Africa, and the native language is Swahili. And the local Africans had a wonderful way, anything that was too difficult, they'd say, Bwana, which means hapana fikiri, shauri ya Mungu, don't worry, the will of God. And they dismiss all the problems instantly, the will of God, right? And I thought, it's been interesting because the last 6 months, I've gone back to saying, shauri ya Mungu, the will of God. And then you ask yourself, dear God, what is your will for me today?
Yeah.
Who do you want me to meet? What do you want me to do? And instead of saying, I'm going to do this, it's turning around and asking him, what is your will? What do you want me to do today? And that's quite a role reversal, isn't it?
Exactly, and we can ask him for everything. We can ask him, well, God, what is your will? Is your will for me to live here? Is it for to live somewhere else? Is it to go to do this job, to do that job? Everything we need to know. What to eat. It's all in the Bible as well. Genesis 1:29 tells us what to eat. The commandments tell us what to live. There's the wall of the commandments that tells us, in this sphere, as she says here, in prayer, seek the will of God, living it according to the commandments to which God calls you. So we know what we're meant to be doing. And then there are the other things in the individual moments, or the career, or the lifestyle, or the place to live.
And I think, again, God gave man the commandments. He gave Moses the commandment. He said, look, this is my command. This is what I want you to do. And man has now reached a state where he wants to be like God and he wants to forget about the commandments. And I think we have to be humble and go back and say, no, this is what God said. And if I want to obey the will of God, I've got to obey what he says with his commandments.
Exactly.
So I mean, you can't have two,
No, it doesn't work.
So you have to say, all right, your will, Lord.
That's right. We'll have to go to a break now.
Thank you.
But I wanted to continue on that when we get back. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Terry Price, we are both talking about Mary's messages from Medjugorje. Welcome back to the program, Terry.
Thank you, Mirella.
Before the break, we were talking a little bit about the last message, which was in prayer, seek the will of God and live it according to the commandments to which God calls you. And you were mentioning something about humility and people being humble. And I was thinking the other day when I was driving, I thought, when people are humble, that there's such a sweetness that comes over them. It's like a sweet spirit that comes over someone who is humble. It's such a lovely, lovely thing. It really is. So everyone who's humble out there, that's what you're like. You're really sweet. So, and also Our Lady goes on to say, I am with you and am praying with you. I am with you and am praying with you. So she's helping us through what we're going through. And she's praying with us because sometimes you feel like you're carrying your own cross alone and nobody understands you and no one can relate to what you're going through, but we're not alone. No one is alone.
No, I think that's the beauty about our Blessed Mother. She's saying, you're not alone. I'm with you. I'm with you in your prayer. I'm with you in your journey. I'm with you to help you live the will of God, keep the commandments that she said in her message. And so she's there beside us.
That's right.
As a real mother.
Yeah.
Just like our own earthly mothers.
Yes.
To cling to.
Yeah.
Right? She said, cling to her.
Exactly.
And
it's up to us.
Because that's really being, children love clinging to their mom. It's like my grandchildren, they love clinging to their mother, and so I think we've got to be childlike in that way, to cling to her, and she'll give us the strength for what she's asked us to do.
That's beautiful, like a spiritual cling, because I can't physically cling to her.
No.
But it's true, it's just like, She's our mother. She's with us, and we have to open our hearts. That's the secret. We have to open our hearts to receive her, because some people say, "I don't feel anything. I don't say," but you have to open your hearts to receive God and to receive Mary, because they're not going to push and barge in. They're there for us, but they want us to open our hearts to let them in.
And I think not everyone has that ability to sort of feel something, because that's a physical thing in our being. But I think we have to believe, right?
That's right.
Even though we may
absolutely.
not feel, we have to believe, all right, I cannot see her, I cannot hear her, but she can hear me.
Yeah.
And she knows what my thoughts are and what my prayers are.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing,
Yeah.
right?
That's beautiful. And then she ends it with, "Thank you for having responded to my call." So we'll do the next message. There was a message to Ivan Drajegovic, which came on, he's one of the visionaries from Medjugorje, which came on the 23rd of February 2015. And I'll read it first. Our Lady said, "Praise be Jesus, my dear children, my little children. Also today I desire to call you in this time of grace, which is coming. Pray more in your families. Renew prayer in your families. Especially pray, dear children, with the children. Pray, dear children, for my intentions, for my plans, which I desire to realize by coming here. Especially pray for my plans of peace. The Mother prays together with you and is always near you. So decide to pray more. Thank you, dear children, for also today having responded to my call. Go in peace, my dear children." So this is a beautiful message here. We'll start with the first one, or "Praise be Jesus, my dear children." So she always gives praise to Jesus when she gives the messages to
That's
Ivan.
right.
That's how she starts them. And then she says, "My dear children, my little children, also today I desire to call you in this time of grace which is coming. Pray more in your families." What would you
Yeah,
like
well, I
to
think,
say?
family prayer is so important. And I know as a child growing up in Africa, every night we used to get around in my parents' bedroom, and we had a little wooden altar, and we'd light a candle, and we'd kneel down and pray the rosary together as a family.
Beautiful.
And only recently, because I'm downsizing right now, that altar went from Africa to England, from England to Australia, to Melbourne, then to Sydney. And then my mother came out for a few months, and then she went back to England and left it with me. And then I brought it from Sydney to Melbourne, and it was in my study. And now recently I had to get rid of it. And I had to tell my siblings in England, there's no room. And you know what they said to me? They said, what was more important was not that altar, it was the prayer that was prayed as a family to God, and that family prayer.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah.
And Our Lady is saying, pray together as a family, and bring your children to pray.
That's right.
And I think when I look at families today, there's no family prayer. They're not praying as a family, even 3 Hail Marys, because Our Lady said to the visionaries of Medjugorje, she didn't say start out by praying the rosary, she said 7 Our Fathers, 7 Hail Marys, 7 Glorias, and the Creed. Simple. And I think even if the children can say a prayer before they go to bed at night,
That's right.
with the
Yeah.
parent, just 3 Hail Marys.
Yeah.
That's very powerful in
It
itself.
is, and it's such a good example as well for children to pray with them, to teach them to pray and to pray with them.
Yeah.
And once Mirella was asked, well, what happens, like my husband doesn't believe, this lady said, my husband doesn't believe. Well, I can't get him to pray. What if I ask him to pray and he doesn't want to pray? And Mirella, this is one of the visionaries from Medjugorje, said, well, you go in the room and you pray on your own. Invite him, but if he doesn't want to come, you go and pray on your own. And you can do that. You can ask him if he wants to pray, and if he doesn't want to pray, or he or she, depending on who. And the children, you try and guide them in prayer. I think you have to be that you're responsible for their faith.
Yeah, and I think also the other thing too is that children's prayer is more powerful with God than yours and my prayer, because they are open.
That's right.
They have open hearts.
Yeah.
And our Lord says, become like little children. So when children pray, it's terrific. And I know a priest who's now in New Zealand, Father Antoine Thomas, who leads children into children's Eucharistic adoration. And it's so wonderful to see.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. And so that's part of that prayer in families.
All right, we'll have to go to a break now. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich and we're here with Terry Price. Welcome back to the program, Terry.
Thank you very much, Mirella.
And before the break, we were reading one of the sentences that Our Lady said is to pray with the families. And now then after she said, renew prayer in your families. So when she says renew, it's like maybe if you've lapsed, if you've forgotten about it, it's time to sort of bring it in again and really make an effort with the family, because it is powerful. Family who pray together stays together.
That's correct.
So much value in praying.
And I think the parents have a responsibility to create that environment for prayer and to have that quiet time, because these days the young children are so consumed with the iPods, the iPhones, all electronic gadgets,
material
and
things.
TV, and they need to just shut off all that and have time for prayer. And even if it's 10 minutes, right? It's time for God.
Exactly.
And I think as a family, the time to do it is before the family meal or after the family meal.
Yeah, we try and do it before the meals, and definitely at night we try and always pray together. I pray with my daughter. My husband's one of the ones I think I have to invite to pray, and if he doesn't come, I have to pray on my own. But my daughter, at least I really try to get her to pray, and she prays, she enjoys prayer. She knows all the prayers. And she's 6, so she's doing pretty well.
That's great.
But I want to keep that going as well. Our Lady says, especially pray, dear children, with the children. So yeah, we really have to pray with, like we were just saying, with the children.
Yeah, and I think if you get them into the habit when they're young, right, and get them to know it's not a repetitive prayer, right, to even pray from the heart.
That's right, yeah.
You know,
yes.
And to really say, well, I used to use this analogy sometimes in being an agricultural person. Think that you're offering a rose to our Blessed Mother, right?
I'm
that
a
each Hail
vegetarian.
Mary is a rose. Here you are. This is my rose for you today.
Yeah.
As a Hail Mary.
A gift, yeah.
So 3 Hail Marys is 3 roses, right?
Yeah. Oh.
So I think, you just have to use that analogy.
Yeah.
So that they can think of it as something more meaningful than something empty.
You're actually giving something, by praying.
Yeah. There was another incident, I think it was the Foyer de Charité in Chile. And they used to look at it as stamps. You know how people collect stamps? So they used to say, okay, each Hail Mary is a stamp for Mary.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And you're making a whole litany of stamps.
Yeah.
You know?
And Our Lady, Miriana, the visionary from Medjugorje, was asked once about how does Our Lady pray the Our Father? And Miriana said, oh my gosh, you should see how she prays it. She says it with like so much love. She goes, I can't even say how much love she says it. So we have to say the words, Our Father, like really with love when we're praying, and Hail Mary really with love.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Feel it and think it.
I'll give you an example again, since we're talking about Medjugorje. I think up until the time I went physically to Medjugorje, I didn't know how to pray from the heart. And my children came back, and we had a prayer group for children in the house. And they'd hear people saying the rosary, and they said, they're going like a train. They're not thinking about what they're saying. They're not praying from the heart. And this is coming from the children. So they pick up how you should pray.
Exactly.
Pray from the heart.
That's right.
Make each word, like you said, the Our Father.
Yeah.
Make it meaningful. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Right? And
it's so much more powerful too, because I try and do that every now and then. When I'm conscious of it, I think, just really pray with love. Think about the words. And it feels so powerful because you really are connecting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Our Lady says, pray, dear children, for my intentions, for my plans which I desire to realise by my coming here. So So now she's giving us examples also of what to pray for. Pray for her intentions, for her plans which she desires to realise by coming here. So she has big plans for the world. We have to pray for it.
Well, she's always said, pray for my intentions. In most of her messages, she says, pray for my intentions. And she's come to Medjugorje. She says, I am the Queen of Peace. I want you to pray for peace. That's one of my intentions.
That's right.
And really, right now, the world needs peace.
Yeah.
And, you know, the world can't give us that peace. It has to come through God.
And we
through
can't
the
find,
prayer.
exactly, we can't find that peace in this world, like in worldly things. We can find that peace in God. Jesus is the only peace, Mary once said. That's the peace.
You know, and I think, again, when she says, pray for my intentions, very often we're saying, Mary, I want this, I want that. Can you give me this, or someone's sick? And she said, no, forget about that. You pray for my intentions, and I will pray for your intentions.
Yeah.
So it's a role reversal.
That's right.
So when
yeah.
we put her first,
Yeah.
she's there interceding for our intentions.
That's right. I once went to this health farm. I used to go a lot of times. This raw food health farm, and before each meal they used to pray before the meal, but they never prayed, please God, give me, give me, give me. It was always thank you for everything that had happened up to that time of that meal, and then to the next meal, everything that had happened in the afternoon till the dinner meal. And it was just beautiful because it lifts you in such a positive spirit, because all you're doing is thanking God for all these wonderful things.
Well, I think that's a very powerful message. When you read the first part of this message, Our Lady said, praise be Jesus. That's praise.
Yeah.
And then the thank you.
Yeah.
And praise and thank you, God.
Always thank you, she says.
My son is always saying to his children, PTYG, which means praise and thank you, God.
Ah, yeah.
And he says, oh, Emily hurt her arm and broke her arm. Praise and thank you, God.
Oh, no.
That Emily broke her arm, right? So it's praising and thanking God, even for the difficult times.
Yeah, for the sufferings. Our Lady says, especially pray for my plans of peace, which is what we were talking about. So she really wants us to especially pray for her plans of peace. The Mother prays together with you and is always near you. So decide to pray more. Thank you to children for having responded to my call. Go in peace, my dear children. So she's really saying here, bring it home. Pray more, pray more. She has plans for peace for the world. We have to pray.
I think so. And I think right now there's so much trouble in the Middle East. The Christians are being persecuted. We have to pray for peace.
We have to pray for peace. Everybody has to pray for peace and love Jesus in their neighbour, and then beauty will come.
And bring the children back to prayer.
And bring, exactly. Beautiful. You know. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Terry.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest was Terry Price. I hope you enjoyed the program. See you soon, and God bless you.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit blowing.